I'd come to this project with many of the same assumptions that you had concerning the Jersey Devil murders and the guilt of Jim Seward. His characterization as a troubled young man responsible for a spree of horrific, ritualistic homicides. What really happened that night? And is Jim Seward truly responsible?
Most people, when they commit a crime, aren't being videotaped, like, when they're doing it, or like near the time when they're doing it. It was like spying in on this crime about to happen.
No one else had the opportunity to commit those murders except for Mr. Jim Seward.
I feel weird about it.
Yeah, no, me too.
This whole idea to come out into the woods and stuff.
Suddenly they want to jump into doing, big time live, from the Pine Barrens and have radio and internet and this and that. And, I knew it was going to be a fiasco. I didn't really think it was going to end up like it did, but I knew it wasn't going to look pretty.
I am from beyond. Listen, and all you desire will be yours. Welcome to Spider-Dan and the Secret Doors. Prepare for Prattle.
Shockphobia Fest.
Welcome to Prattle World. I am your host, the ever-amazing, ever-spectacular Spider-Dan, and in this podcast I spotlight entertainment's best-kept secrets that a mainstream audience may find boring. And welcome to Shockphobia Fest, a month-long celebration of All Hallows Eve's most frightening films and comic spooks. And yes, it's been a horrifically long wait for this final Shockphobia Fest episode. Yes, so I said I would do you voted, I gave you the options, and you chose, my patrons, the top 5 horror, mockumentary, or found footage films. So initially I did say found footage films would be the title and would be the driving consensus behind this choice. Now, as my research has developed, I've realised that mockumentaries, though a separate genre, do have a very thin dividing line between found footage, and often they can be both at the same time. So I thought, instead of trying to define for me what is, a found footage or a mockumentary, I thought I'd just do both, because it is a very, very thin dividing line. Again, they explore, what is truth, what is fact, what is fiction. They explore the manipulation of media. Truth is in the eye of the beholder kind of thing, seeing is believing. And the idea of found footage and media being manipulated, telling us things that aren't necessarily true, but presenting them as true. With the rise of AI and it can mean deep fakes and things like that. And, it is still a very relevant question, if not more relevant now, to discuss what we determine and what we live in a post-truth world, you could say. Again, media manipulation has always gone on, but I think we're more aware of it now than ever. And how that can affect, politics and policies and businesses and celebrity and, our perception. What is fundamentally truth? What is truth is what these films kind of discuss and interpret in their own way. And, does it follow along with someone's narrative and what they want to believe, as opposed to being factual and depicting something as fact and what is true? So it's a really interesting subject. And I think, again, there's been, as early as the 70s and 60s, there's been mockumentary and found footage, films, quote unquote, before we would even call them that. They were in place and being made, and it is a fascinating subject. And again, some people are kind of sticklers for the kind of the rules of found footage, and does it really work? Is there editing, or is there moments where they switch different cameras and things, and do they explain the technology they're using correctly and in the right way? And again, there are a lot of shit found footage films out there. There's a lot of shit mockumentaries out there, and they don't necessarily have to be out and out horror films, but I think the genre does gravitate more so towards that. Again, they're cheap to make, easy to make, and you can make a lot of money off them if they are effective. Just look at Cannibal Holocaust, arguably the first, found footage film. The rest of the film is filmed kind of quite normally, but then when they look at the found footage itself, then it goes into that, and that was arguably the first one. But there are other versions of that idea, and again, Ruggero Deodato was playing around with that idea of what we can show on television and what is the fact and the fiction behind it, because they, in that film, were creating the problems that they were filming and documenting. So again, what is the truth? And what is the fact? And how do we determine that? And when the whole world is lying to us, how do we determine our own truth? Which, again, a fascinating subject. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that could talk much better about it than myself. But yeah, it's an interesting topic. And again, it can, the idea of, serial killers, filming themselves or recording themselves is, still a prevalent thing, even, back in the days, and stuff like that. It was a worry. But again, a lot of these films are around that and the stalking element, or it's depicting, going out and finding a cryptid creature or something, or uncovering a mystery, investigative journalism, sensational journalism as well, sensationalism, and what that says about society. And when it comes to like selling stories, are we doing the truth? Are we doing puff pieces? Or are we doing this sensationalist Rupert Murdoch idea of journalism? It's all very fascinating, and most of these films cover it. And there's a really great documentary I watched recently from Shudder, which I'll, if I can find it, I'll link it. I think it's on YouTube. I will link it in the show notes. If you don't already have Shudder, I think it should be on there. But they speak to most of the kind of big names in found footage films, including some of the people I will talk about today in their films. But yes, without further ado, though, I do recommend that documentary. Give it a watch. I can't remember the name of it, but again, I will link it in the show notes. But yeah, let's get started. So, with horror and found footage, one of the big ones, which I still have not seen, is the Blair Witch Project, which was basically the big boom of found footage. And again, huge success, massively influential as well. Had various sequels and comic books and other stuff. And again, influenced filmmakers and people who didn't have necessarily the funds to do it film on film or the access to go out and make their own kind of found footage films and found their own success and a launch pad for their career a lot of the time. So yeah, and there was a film, however, there was a precursor to this. Again, there's many others beforehand, again, some of them that I'll talk about later, but this is the last broadcast from 1998. Now, people say it was kind of it is the precursor to Blair Witch, but it did not directly influence the Blair Witch because that was already in production in 1993. So it's just, again, another one of those kind of Clone Wars coincidences that they're both looking at the same sort of thing. So this is directed by Stefan Avalos and Lance Weiler, and it's basically the first what they call desktop feature film. So it's all done with digital cameras and edited digitally. It's basically about some kind of live streamers, basically, back in the day, back in the early days of the internet, which I found very, very interesting. And again, it's all very tactile and there's desktop monitors and cables and all this. And yeah, reminding me like in the dial-up tone and things like that. And it investigates kind of the dark days, the early days of the internet, and again linking up with the fringe types, those kind of outsiders that are not all that well or all that together, that you can meet and find and connect with on the internet as well. So it's about this film crew, kind of student film crew. They're doing a public access show, which I know PBS has just lost all of its funding, or most of its funding, for like Sesame Street and stuff. So again, very relevant. So yeah, they play these two hosts host a show called Fact or Fiction, and they are basically doing live streams over the internet effectively. Very kind of rudimentary, early days internet kind of thing going on, and communities and chat groups and instant messenger and things. So again, massively ahead of its time in the way that it was discussing these topics. And basically they get a suggestion to go into the Pine Barrens in New Jersey and find out if the Jersey Devil itself is real, or to investigate, which they agree to. Again, and it's an anonymous person who messages them and gives them that idea. But yeah, it's crazy how influential this is. Again, it's not, I don't think it's the same kind of as the Blair Witch, because it is found footage yet a mockumentary at the same time. It's it's two different things that are being meshed together, but it does really work, and you kind of buy into, again, which is the idea of what they're talking about, is what is truth and what are the facts, and how can things be manipulated and told to tell a certain narrative. Like there's an editor in this film, so they go out to this area in the Pine Barrens, and they take a very troubled psychic with them to kind of help, who they again meet online and believe he'll be helpful. But again, there's a lot of tension here between the two hosts and how well the show's doing and how much money they can make, and they want to make it a success, and they're kind of obsessive almost a little bit. And basically, murders occur while they're there in the woods. And the one guy, the troubled psychic guy, is the only survivor. One of them is missing, one of the bodies is missing, but two are found, and it appears they've been attacked by an animal, or someone with kind of animalistic rage kind of thing, or the Jersey Devil itself. Perhaps, maybe it is. But this young man is blamed for the murders, even though the facts that they've given kind of indicate that he can't have been the person who's perpetrated it, because he couldn't make the distance and things like that, the facts and the figures they provide to you. And there's a guy who's edited the footage in such a way, the found footage, that for the prosecution, so they can again pin it on him and get a case and button it off, and put to rest all this Jersey Devil bullshit and things. And this documentarian is trying to present all the different, he finds footage and it's been sent to him. I wouldn't say it's out and out scary, but it is very kind of disturbing and troubling, and very, very intellectual. Again, these guys made this on, I think, $4,000 or $400, something like that. Like a really, really low budget, really, in regards to what it is. Sorry, $900 it was. And they made eventually internationally over 4 million. So this was an absolute hit, really, in regards to the amount that they spent on it and got back. I'm hoping the filmmakers themselves got most of that money. Let's hope so. It's an interesting thing that they're discussing, and the kind of bastardization of media and the use of it and the presentation of it in such a way that it would fulfill a narrative. They're not being, the documentarian might not be as objective as you think as well in regards to the film. But I kind of bought into it, and again, this is what I was saying, that the the investigative side of it, I'm figuring it out and I'm working it. I'm putting the puzzle pieces together. The puzzle pieces they're presenting, which is kind of, it's a fallacy, it's a fake film, but you kind of buy into it. And again, it's that kind of, I don't know, murder porn and true crime kind of fascination we kind of, most of us share to a degree. I think that we find it interesting, the kind of see what would make somebody snap or do certain things. So yeah, very, very interesting film. I do highly recommend it. I think it's one of the ones that's worth revisiting. Again, it's not one that's made out of jump scares, and it's not one that's made to scare you or shock you necessarily, but there are moments of that. But it is a deeply chilling and disturbing film and story. Again, these guys are not very kind of technically, advanced, I think, in their skills or in regards to acting. And again, it's amateur technically, but still, it kind of helps with the fact that it makes it feel more real, almost to a degree. It's very. Again, I was very invested, and I think it is one to look. I think if you are a fan of the Blair Witch, again, I've not seen it, but I imagine from what I know of that film, what I believe that film to be about, I think there's definitely something here to be mined, and something that is still very relevant to this day. And again, it tackles subjects that, again, the needing of celebrity and fame and all this other stuff as well. Very, very interesting, very, very relevant. But yeah, highly recommend this one. Go and check that out. The Last Broadcast from 1998. 101 Films just put out a really nice edition of it on DVD, Blu-ray, I believe. So go and check that out as well. But yeah, I love the aesthetic. I love the kind of, retro media of it all as well. I thought it was a very, very excellent, well put together film, considering the rudimentary kind of early days of the digital kind of editing and technology and computers and you name it. I just think I think it's very well done. It's definitely worth checking out if you're a fan of that kind of thing. But yeah, it's one of the big films in regards to the found footage genre. But yeah, definitely check it out. Next up is something a bit more fun, something a bit more interesting. Not more interesting, but something a bit more enjoyable. It's a Norwegian film called Troll Hunter from 2010, I want to say. And it's directed by Andre of Redal. And it is about a student film crew who are doing a project, and they're following the trail of a poacher, what they believe to be a poacher. And it turns out he's not a poacher at all, but for a shady government department, he's actually hunting mythical trolls in Norway. So yes, and that's basically the premise. I think it's really strong. Again, there's these very classic looking trolls, very, very in line with something like BFG, those type of kind of ugly, large, monstrous kind of beings. But again, they're kind of silly and stupid, and classic designs only belie their danger and menace and power. Which again, there's a lot of humor here. There's a lot of kind of there's some political barbs being thrown at kind of Norwegian environmental agencies as well. So there's something kind of, again, topical about this as well. And I do think, on that documentary, the Last Broadcast guys say that found footage works best when it has something to say, and this is what I agree with, I believe. And again, though I'm not up on Norwegian kind of politics or geopolitics or what have you, you can tell there's something going on here. I think it's got very likable characters, very nice characters, very interesting characters. There's a lot of kind of genuine kind of world building, and again, doesn't feel like it's kind of exposition dumpy. It's kind of natural. It comes up as it progresses, and there's a few little kind of twisty turny bits, and also there's a large kind of lumping of humor in it again, which I appreciate. So again, it does have its terrifying and deep and dark and, interesting moments and heroic moments and poignant moments. But overall, I think it's just a banger. It's just fun. However, I have a DVD of this, and there is I watched the original language, the Norwegian version with subtitles on, but my disc is quite damaged. I think I bought it kind of secondhand, so it's not great quality. So it stopped working when I was watching it. I was like, oh shit. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll have to buy the digital version. I went to buy the digital version on Apple, but they only have the English version, and it is the fucking worst dub I have ever heard in my entire life. Do not buy it from Apple. I asked for a refund. They gave it to me immediately. Thank fuck, because I'm not paying for that. It is fucking awful, that dub. I listened to not even a minute of it, and I went, this is fucking horrific. Turn it off. Luckily, I gave my DVD a rub, and it worked again. Magic. The old techniques still work. But yeah, this is absolutely a really fun one. Again, I'm a big fan of international films. Please give international films a go, even if you struggle with subtitles, because you can find some wonderful stuff. Again, if you want to, you can do the dub, but it's some dubs I don't mind. I think depending on the film and how good they are and what kind of film it is. But this was fucking dreadful. So you can get a copy of it on, Blu-ray or wherever it's streaming at the moment. I'm not sure if it's on Netflix, wherever, but go and find it, check it out, buy a copy of it, but just double check it gives you, because when I was buying it, it says 2 languages, Norwegian and English, and then when I bought it, only the English one was available. So no fucking idea why that was. Yeah, just don't buy it on Apple if you want it to have Norwegian subtitles or Norwegian audio. Just don't do it. That would be my my advice. But yeah, generally great film. He went on to do another film. The director went on to do another film I quite liked, which was The Autopsy of Jane Doe, which I've done an earlier podcast on, which is also very, very good in its own right. Not perfect by any stretch, but I think it's a solid horror entry with Brian Cox and Emile Hirsch, I want to say. But yeah, definitely check that out as well, because it's great. So yeah, next up is The Devil's Doorway by Eileen Clark. So this is an Irish film. This was filmed on 16mm. This is set in the 1960s, and it is depicting a very real life, horrific state of something that the Catholic Church did in Ireland, which was called the Magdalene Laundries. You might be familiar with them. There's a few films on them, but not many. But it was about basically unmarried women, young women, pregnant women, mentally unwell women, you name it. Basically, undesirable women in society were sent to these Magdalene Laundries, and it was basically slave labor. So the Catholic Church would make money off them for doing laundry. And yeah, horrific circumstances, horrific things were done. But yeah, it's just disturbing, disgusting history behind that. Again, they were closed down eventually, but the director found herself pregnant only a year after the last one closed. So she could have very much ended up in one of those locations and been beaten and abused and God knows what else. But yeah, so this is what the film is about. It's about a supposed miracle occurring in a nunnery, and this older, more experienced priest who's kind of lost his faith and is a bit jaded about everything, and a younger, more kind of, hopeful and still has his faith young priest who's a filmmaker. And again, you have to kind of suspend your disbelief a little bit in regards to the found footage aspect in this, because obviously in the 60s cameras were fucking massive. So yeah, you have to kind of suspend it a little bit in regards to him carrying that around. And again, I think they talk about how heavy it is and stuff, and how much it's hurting his shoulder and things, but still it's kind of there's a little bit of kind of that. And again, the ending in the beginning kind of don't really tie it together all that well. They just go, we found this, and the Catholic Church have disavowed it or something. So again, And I will say as well, the cliches of kind of, possession and horror, satanic stuff and, weird nuns and ghost children, they're all found here, and they're all fine. They all work. I think it's edited and filmed and kind of the cinematography of it really helps. The 16mm aspect really does help you kind of sell that idea. So yeah, if you like your religious horror films, I think there's something here to enjoy. Again, there is a lot of films about possession, especially found footage films. But I think what's good about this is it is grounded in something that's very, very real and very terrifying, really, more so than any of the kind of horror things that occur or the satanic things that occur in this film. That's more terrifying, is really what the Catholic Church is, or Ireland or any, religious group or government will allow systematically the abuse of young women, young girls, which is awful. But I think if you enjoy that kind of thing, if you enjoy religious horror, if you enjoy the discussion and the aspects of it, I think there's something to be found here that'll be good, that'll be fun for you. That again, disturbing. There is one shot I found really kind of disturbing, and it's basically this woman is tied down. She's apparently possessed, and she's tied down and she's being forced to give birth. And again, within the story, there's talk about children being murdered and killed or sacrificed at this nunnery because that's where all the ghost children are coming from. And, there's all this kind of talk of that. And we see that she's tied down, she's forced to have this baby. Again, we don't know if she wants to keep it. What's the situation here with the child? But he puts the camera down, and we're sat to focus and linger on the shot of this poor woman giving birth while being chained to a bed, while being possessed all at the same time. And she looks at the camera as well, and it's kind of like, look at this, like starkly look at this, look what happened to these women, look what happened to these young girls, and it kind of hangs on that. And again, it's kind of asking you to say, look what we did, or look what people are capable of, the people who are in charge, basically. Look at how they dealt with these problems, with these issues in the worst possible way. So yeah, a very fascinating film with a lot of layers. I think the main character is great. This kind of jaded priest who is trying to do the right thing, and he was one of the children that came from this nunnery that was given to an orphanage, and he's kind of returned home. And there's all these kind of elements and things changing, and reality shifting. So yeah, really, really solid. Again, not without its flaws, but I think because of the real life horror, it adds another layer than just a one that didn't have any links to the real world or real things or real issues. I think there is definitely some stuff to be mined here, and yeah, I think I've not seen any of her other work, the director, but yeah, I definitely will be looking out, because I think there's definitely something here that she's grabbed hold of. Next up is a South Korean film called Gonjiam Haunted Asylum. This is directed by Jung Bum-sik. Basically, a few years ago, someone recommended to me Grave Encounters, which I didn't really like that much. I might revisit it, I don't know, but I didn't really buy into it. I didn't really like it. I thought it was a bit cheesy, a bit over the top. So this kind of is the same story. And again, it is set or based in a real life place. So Gonjiam Asylum is a real place in South Korea, and it was listed on a website of being the creepiest places to visit. So and I think it was like an American article that the director or writer read and was like, right, perfect, let's go, let's make a movie about it. And it's about a team of kind of amateur ghost hunters that have seen various videos of people in the past, online viral videos of people going into the asylum and trying to open a certain door, a specific door, and they've gone missing, or they've not been heard from again, or they've come out and they're comatose, or various other things. So this team of the regular ghost hunters recruit new ghost hunters or even more amateur ghost hunters than before to join them, mostly women and who have done kind of similar things and who are live streaming it themselves and recording it themselves. And again, they go in, they have to break in because it's illegal to be in there. They shouldn't be in there. So they set up all these cameras and all this other stuff, and they've got head cams on. And again, they fully explain the technology, which I enjoyed and appreciated, and what they were doing, what they were attempting, and how it was working. And basically, it's a somewhat staged, a ghost hunter show, like Derek Acora, all that sort of stuff. And they go in, and initially it is, they can set up ads so they can talk, and they're being directed by the main guy, the director, telling them do this now and cueing them into doing the different things. Again, it's very low budget, the film. It's but it goes to show what you can achieve and what you can get out of a kind of a film like this. And like, I'm not a big jump scare person. Like, I don't tend to jump a lot. Like, you have to really catch me off guard to get a jump scare. And this scared me at least twice, minimum. This made me jump twice, which I have to give it kind of props for that, because, I watch a lot of horror films. It's very hard to kind of get me to jump like that. I could be creeped out and weird, or I can enjoy things, but to really make me like shit me up, takes some doing. So yeah, this is great. And again, a lot of this is staged, and then there's moments where they are staging it for the women they've recruited for their ghost team, because they're under the impression that all of this is real. This is a real event. All these scares and things moving and changing, and even they plant kind of items like photographs and dolls and other stuff to make it seem all that more real, only for the real haunting to begin and them getting really scared. And again, I like that there's this, in Grave Encounters, they're like, oh, we're just walking around in circles, we can't leave. And there is that element to it of the reality shifting and, doors changing and getting moved around. But they do actually get outside, and then shit still happens to them outside. So I'm glad that there's not like, they don't come up with a thing where they're like, they force them to stay inside, or they're locked in, or any of that shit. So yeah, I think it's generally, I think it's got a great, really likable cast, good looking cast. And yeah, I think there's a lot here that you can enjoy. There's a lot here you can get out of this film, and how it presents itself and what it does. And yeah, there's just, again, and it's tackling a lot of those kind of topics that we talked about in the last broadcast, the fame and the getting the likes and what we'll do and how far someone will go to put others in danger to get more money and to get more fame and all this sort of stuff, even though everything about their kind of world is telling them to get the fuck out, which they do attempt. But yeah, there's some real fucking creepy characters in this, and the way they move, and yeah, very, very disturbing shit. But yeah, excellent film, really, really good. So Gonjiam Haunted Asylum, you've definitely got to check out as well. Finally, I'm going to go with 1971's Punishment Park. Now, I could not think of a more relevant film to have watched in 2025 than this. It is basically about an alternate, let's say, America in the 1970s, where radicals and people who are, politically, not in line with the current administration, let's say, are sent to either jail if they feel like they are bringing the downfall of America or potential terrorists, and they are given the option to go to jail or to go to Punishment Park. Punishment Park is basically a desert, and they are forced to run 50 miles and collect a flag. If they do that, then they can leave freely, I believe, if that's their goal, or maybe their sentence is cut short. I can't remember exactly, but basically their goal is to run 50 miles across this desert in a certain time frame. I think it's 48 hours, and to get to this flag, to grab this flag to end the chase. So the chase is that they're being chased by police officers, armed police officers, with nightclubs, nightsticks, guns, you name it. They are said not to hurt them. They're told not to hurt them, but if they are pushed, then they will defend themselves. And all the while during this, we're seeing these, I say actors, but they were people who are non-actors. This was by an English director, and he basically used all the kind of documentary filming techniques. And again, this is the idea that he's creating is a pseudo documentary. I don't think Nixon is named, but the idea is there. But if you replaced Nixon with Trump, this could have come out yesterday. Again, it talks about the polarization of the two kind of party system politically, and how far divided they are on most topics. And again, we have these people who are judging them and kind of holding these sessions, these court sessions or cases to see, basically asking for evidence and how they're trying to defend themselves. There's a lawyer there who's defending all of them that's having a hard go at it. There's so many lines in here and so many talking points that are just so relevant to today. And, the talking of people going to El Salvador and without any due process or evidence, which is exactly what's happening here. Like, they're being sent without any evidence, without any due process. The court already knows how they're going to determine it, and they're letting them speak, but there's no, like some of the defendants say, there's no point. There's almost no point telling you because you've already made your mind up about these people and not going to change their mind at all. And again, they're quite literally overturning the Constitution to put these people where they want them to be. And again, these are actors who are, again, not actors, non-actors, but did share these views personally. So again, these older mothers and fathers or grandfathers who are on this committee, they're judging these people, these youngsters, who they were real kind of, again, political activists. There's such realism here, and again, apparently some of the shots where, maybe some of the actors got a little, again, actors, I say quote unquote actors, but got a bit vicious or got a bit full on. It became very real. And it is, and it's there on screen how real this is. And, there's people or people with autism getting registered at the moment. Again, this will come out in October, but for my Patreon, this is coming out early. This is happening. This is America, to quote Donald Glover and or Childish Gambino in his song. Again, the reality and the blending of the fiction and reality, comes full circle. And I think it does happen sometimes in these kind of films where, and again, the director of the documentary, even though trying to be objective, gets to a point where he's utterly outraged and gets involved, can't be objective anymore because he's just seen the murder and assassination of several people, several seemingly innocent people, because of some young guy shot his gun too early, and now these people are dead. And some of them, they're not perfect either. They murder some police officers as well, but again, they felt like they were going to be killed either way. And then there's a scene at the end where most of them, a majority of them make it there, and there's a row of policemen there, and they're like, just let them through. They made it. Just let them through. And they refuse to, and again, basically beat them or kill them. And that's kind of where it kind of cuts off. But again, this was, America did not like this at the time. They felt like an Englishman criticizing their political system was unfair. But over the years, this has really found an audience and is still being watched and talked about to this day, because of how visceral and powerful it is. It's not an easy watch. There is a moment where a black man is quite literally held down and his mouth is held shut. And again, I think for most people that will remind them of George Floyd and RIP. And again, everything that happened with the Black Lives Matter movement as well. That's one of the more disturbing elements of it, that again, he's trying to speak out, to talk, and they're quite literally silencing him. They put a gag in his mouth, and it's scary, really. And that's why I've included it, because it is quite terrifying. But I do recommend it. Is available in its entirety on YouTube, and it's a stark and harrowing depiction of what America is or could be. So yeah, but that is my top 5 mockumentary and horror found footage films. I've got a couple of honourable mentions that I'd like to talk about. So I'd like to mention Savage Land. So that is a film, again, available on YouTube, its entirety, which weirdly stars Len Wein, the comic book creator of Swamp Thing and Wolverine and Nightcrawler, Storm, Colossus, co-creator anyway. Yeah, he's oddly in this as a photographer, but don't ask me why, but he's there. I don't know if the title Savage Land made him think it was something to do with X-Men. I don't know. But there you go. But it is about a small border town who all of a sudden overnight becomes a ghost town, and there is one survivor again. Much like last broadcast, he is the killings are pinned on him, and he's taken several photographs. So it's not found footage, but it's found photographs, which is actually kind of creepier because you only see these blurry kind of images. And it seemingly appears that this town was ambushed by vampires or zombies or whatever you want to call them, revenants of some kind. But because he's Mexican, the bigoted kind of politicians and police and white people are trying to pin the entire murder of the entire town on him, even though it's not possible. Much like last broadcast, it delves into a lot of that, and again the narrative and what they want to believe and what they want to not believe, what's going on. But again, very relevant, very topical, still works. And yeah, it's something a bit different because of it's a photograph as opposed to again mockumentary / found footage again. But yeah, there's something there definitely to be looked at. Noroi the Curse is a Japanese film, which again I really, really enjoyed. Again, a mockumentary about kind of summoning of a demon and how this evil that slowly infects others around you, and the kind of mythology and practices of it all. Again, there's some similarities to Gonjiam in that way, of kind of live streamers looking for fame and ghosts and things like that. But yeah, I think it's really, really effective, really disturbing, very, very dark. When it gets to the end and kind of the final reveal is quite disturbing in itself. But yeah, really, really, really good film. Check that one out. The Dirties. Now, it's not necessarily a horror film. It's more of a black comedy, but it's about a group of two young filmmakers who are trying to make a film, and they are horrifically bullied and treated poorly. Definitely outsiders, and they love films and comic books and reference things all the time and try and emulate those different styles. And they eventually get to a point where, what if we faked a school shooting? What if we, filmed the preparation or the organization of a fake school shooting to kill our bullies, purely just our bullies, nobody else. But eventually one of them goes into and starts to say, why not? Why don't we just do it for real? Why not? And yeah, one of them slowly kind of loses it and decides to take it that much further. It's not, again, it's a very, very, very black comedy. Like, I can understand why people would not enjoy this or would not go out and watch it, but I think it does say some important things about radicalization and how it can easily be done. Like, I there's a lot of kind of similarities to who I am and the characters in that film. And I could, if, in the right circumstances, like I said in our cult podcast last year, I think people can quite easily fall into those kind of groups and scenarios and beliefs, should they be radicalized enough and should they see and hear enough that they're brainwashed. And I think, again, politically, there's something to be said for that as well, with things like GB News or Talk TV, which, again, do not deliver facts, purely deliver opinions, really. That's all they do. But that's my opinion on that. But they have that. And then what else would I like to talk about? Lake Mungo, which, again, really chilling, disturbing documentary, found footage film from Australia. And yeah, just about the grief and loss of a child and how that can affect a family on so many levels, and how they each of them respond to the loss of this daughter, which again is sudden and mysterious, but again very dark, very disturbing, but it's just what you can achieve is massive with a found footage film. When you do it right, when you nail it, there's so much power in these films. Again, when you don't, then they're shit. But I think if you hit on something good and you catch that line in a bottle, I think there is something really special about these kind of films and what they can do and what they can say. Another film I quite liked, which was The Borderlands. Again, another kind of religious horror film, which I think it's based in Scotland. I think it's from a Scottish film director, writer, and team. And it's basically about, again, another miracle occurring, and again them going to investigate, and very much in line with Devil's Doorway. But and again, it's somebody who kind of doesn't believe in God anymore, and they've got all this technology and film techniques and stuff. But yeah, no, really, really. I think if you like Devil's Doorway, if you like Borderlands, I think it would make a really good double bill. Actually, two of them together. So yeah, definitely check those both out. But yeah, that is the end of Shockphobia Fest, guys. Thank you again. As always, you can find me at spiderdanandthesecretboars.com. I would like to thank my patrons on Patreon: Tony Farina, I Am Jack's Musings, Simon Cotton, Paul Mellon, Mike Burton, Angry Andy, Tonya Todd, Math, Scott Hodgson, Rhea Carrigan, and Sarah Coyne. Thank you for your continuing donations. It is very much appreciated and helps Prattle World keep on turning. And if you find yourself in a position to help the podcast, please consider it. If not, consider leaving a review, a comment, or sharing on social media. Thank you, guys. I hope you've had a happy Halloween. I've really enjoyed all of these podcasts by myself. Not my favorite, but needs must. So, but yeah, I'm just glad I could get something out to you. And yeah, hope you're enjoying them. I hope you have a good Halloween. I'm going to be in the Universal park, I think, come Halloween. So yeah, we're going to be doing all sorts of spooky things as family, so it should be fun. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, check out the podcast next time, and we'll do something. I'm not sure what's coming up next. I think it's one with math, I think. So we shall see. And then we'll go into alternativity stories, and we'll see what the patrons have picked for that, as we've been doing a recent poll, or will be doing a recent poll, on the next guest versus guest. So we'll do all 4 episodes. It will have a guest versus guest poll, and the patrons again will decide. And most of them are patrons themselves. So we shall see. But before we get to there, we will end Halloween. Goodbye.